Today we'll be discussing about influencer marketing. And I know you have been on your social media and you've seen a lot of people telling you, buy this, buy this. And for a person who is in business, and because we speak to business people, you and we get a lot of calls about this. Do they make money? Do they sell your products? And that is what we'll be discussing today. I am so excited to be introducing Mwongera Mutiga. Guy, this is not saying my other names.
Don't butcher the name.
Mwongera Mutiga, the CEO and founder of Brick Red Brick
Africa.
Red Brick Africa. Please, Caribbean
Need
mic
to be
kidogo.
closer to the mic. Okay. Is that better?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for coming into the show today. Tell us about who is Red Brick.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So Red Brick is a company that does market research.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell, we provide our customers, organizations, investors, entrepreneurs with insights to help them make better decisions.
Yeah.
We find that a lot of business decisions are made based on gut or history
Mhm,
or
mhm.
just an idea.
That inner feeling.
That inner feeling. And that inner feeling counts for something. I mean,
Yes.
it doesn't, we can't discount it,
Yeah.
but on its own is not enough. So we provide the data that backs up the gut feeling.
Yeah.
We say gut feeling on its own doesn't work,
Mm.
data on its own doesn't work. So
Yeah.
it's a combination of the data and the gut that allows you to make the right decisions.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of speakers who come here and tell you, for example, one Miss Lucy Gidego came and told us hope is not a strategy.
True. That is so true. That is so true.
And it was so controversial because
Yeah.
people are saying, so you're not supposed to be hopeful when you're entering into business. But the focus on doing market research before you get into something,
Yes.
why is that important?
It's important because it gives you insight into what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do,
Mm.
but it helps you to be targeted and to make the right decisions. I'll give an example. One of our clients was putting up an apartment block
Mhm.
somewhere along the bypass, and
Yes.
they wanted to know, what is the best use of that piece of land. And they settled on an apartment block, and they'd even given me specs and said, we're going to do this size of apartments,
Mhm.
2-bedroom, blah, blah, blah. And they'd given a whole thing.
Yes.
And, I challenged them. I said, look, how do you know that's the best fit for your investment? Okay. And, conversation ensued, and eventually we agreed on a study. We basically went in and did a feasibility for them. And it turns out that the type of apartments he was going to put up were already saturated in that part of the country,
Mm.
that part of the city.
Yes.
And as a result, he would have had at best a 50% occupancy on his apartments, which would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
Because all the other places where we had seen, which had a similar setup to what he had in mind,
Mm-hmm.
30%, 50% occupied.
Yeah.
And so we asked him to change his whole plan and to do things differently. It meant going back to the drawing board and doing a whole new plan in terms of the drawings and
Yes.
the approvals and everything.
Yeah.
But it would have saved him a whole lot of money in the
Yeah.
long run. And that's the thing. You put in a small amount, invest a small amount of time, a small amount of money
Mhm.
for a study at the beginning,
Mhm.
and it saves you a lifetime of stress and hustle.
All right.
And that's the importance of research. It gives you insights to make decisions,
It gives you insights to make decisions.
the right decisions.
We have people like Mama Mbogas and SMEs that really want to, they wake up and say, I have this idea.
Yeah.
Do they also need to do research before they start?
It's an excellent question. I think research is not just the sort of like the formal study that you do at the beginning of an enterprise or
Yes.
starting off something.
Mhm.
Research is something you carry throughout the enterprise
Okay.
every single day.
Oh,
If
really?
you talk to a mama mboga and
Yes.
those people who sell stuff on the side of the road,
Yeah.
you'll find that they have such insight on their customers that they don't even realize how powerful that is. How much information that they gather on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But either they underutilize it, which means they don't use the information to help them grow their
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
Or if they do, then they don't think of it as research. They just think of it as customer awareness. Know
Yeah.
your customer, KYC.
Yes. Yes.
And us guys, academic people, we're so mad. We're in a nice room here. We have like a perspective. We want to use
Mhm.
certain acronyms and certain words to make it
Yeah.
look fancy.
Yeah.
But it's very simple. It's understanding who your customer is, and that's part of what research is.
Yeah.
A lot of people collect data on their customers, on their competitors every day that they don't use. or they don't realize that this is actually insight I can use to help me do my business differently.
Yeah.
If I know that so and so comes at a certain time every day, and they like their mbogas cut in a certain way, or they always come and they buy 2 packets of milk and a loaf of bread, I can gather from that this person probably has a family, because who's going to eat 2 loaves of bread a day? That they need them mbogas cut, so that means they don't have time to cut them at home. So that means it's somebody who has other people, or they don't have somebody to help them in the house.
Yes.
You can gather insight.
Wow, I never thought of that. Like,
yeah, it's small things, and if you join the dots together, you begin to make connections that help you optimize your business.
Okay.
And optimize is a fancy word, but that mom, for example, that guy, that shopkeeper, just by observing people over a couple of weeks or a couple of months, he can be able to tell the size of your family. He tells what kind of food you guys like to eat. He can tell what your budget is every month, because that's where you buy your stuff from. He can tell when you come and go.
Wow.
And he knows which schools your kids go to.
Wow.
All that is intel, which he can use to optimize the customer experience.
Yeah.
So when you come next time,
probably even add more add more goods and services that will help me.
Exactly. When you come, it's not just the bread. He can suggest, what about if you try this soap that you're using, by the way, there's a better one that has come.
Yeah.
So the retailer on the other side who is selling this soap, he can partner with this shopkeeper to push his product, not just from having loud things in the shop, but from intel that the shopkeeper knows his customers. He knows who uses what and when he's running out of soap, when he's running out of unga. He can tell. He has all the intel.
Yes.
And he can use that to really optimize the customer experience.
Oh.
But we don't think of it that way.
We don't
think of it that way. Yeah. Intel is so powerful.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
How expensive is research?
Let me rephrase that question. How expensive is ignorance?
Love it.
How costly is it to not know what you need to know? If you're going to invest, and maybe I can take this from sort of like a white collar kind of perspective. If you're a business, investing millions, say, in marketing, for example, and you're putting up the billboards, you have your radio ads, you have all this stuff, you have your ads on Icon Radio, and everything's going really well.
Yes.
Do you really know what your every shilling that you're spending is doing for you and for your business? A lot of people don't. A lot of people have this idea that let's just throw everything on the wall and see what sticks, or let's just shoot in the dark. We'll hit something. Let's just shoot. We'll hit something for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's our motivational guys who tell us, you can do it.
You just do it. Just go and do it. And it's good. You need to do it. That's absolutely a must. You have to go out and do it.
Yeah.
But how about you take a bit of time and do it right? I forget who it is who said this, and I can find the quote, but he basically said if he was given 6 hours to cut down a tree, he'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. So that when he takes those 2 hours, he's going to cut down that tree very efficiently.
Yes.
And that's really what research is. It's about taking time to find out what you need to know, so that what you do is a lot more effective.
Oh.
A whole lot more effective.
Right.
So to answer your question, I think the cost of research is failure or a bad investment. That's the real cost of research. If you don't spend that money, you're going to lose that money.
Do you feel like a lot of, and I think we've been discussing this off air, a lot of entrepreneurs fear research. They feel like they don't want to the more they know, the more they're afraid of entering in the market.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's two sides to that whole dynamic. On the one hand, people think research is a huge, expensive enterprise. We don't need it because we can't afford it.
Yeah.
And so people
I think that's the thing, affording.
Yeah. People feel like it's too expensive. It's not worth the cost. And then on the other hand, there are people who don't see the value of it. And they think, I know what I'm doing. I've been an auditor with KPMG for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
How difficult can it be for me to set up my own audit firm? Or, I like clothes. So how hard can it be for me to sell clothes? You know? So some people don't see the value of research, and so therefore they don't do it, and it costs them. And I think on the other hand, to a limited degree, some people don't realize that some of the stuff they're doing is research, and some of the decisions that they're making are backed by data, but they don't see it as research. And so therefore, when you're faced with that word, it just feels like something I shouldn't, or I can't afford, or I shouldn't do, or I don't need.
Yes. I think, and I'm in the PR world, and I see a lot of people, we always ask them, have you done research? Do you think that this product is, because when you come and tell me to market your product and you have no idea what's inside it, it just becomes a problem as well.
Yes.
And when we do the marketing and we find out that the market does not like the product, so we've already, involved us in marketing a product, but people are, because there was no research done before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that happens with a lot of enterprises, a lot of business people, is that you get married to your idea. That you spend so much time and effort putting this thing together that you cannot imagine it failing, and so you believe that if I do some research, it might tell me what I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And so therefore you go ahead and do it. So, you would rather spend spend good money after a bad idea rather than just stop the whole thing and do things differently.
Yeah.
We've come across that so many times.
It's the excitement of, that excitement is
this
not
thing
nice.
is good. We're doing this thing, so let's do it. I mean, anybody who says anything other than what we want to hear, we just shut them out. And that's the thing. Research is not supposed to be sort of like counter to what you've already done.
Yeah.
It's not that we're doing research to disprove what you've decided or what you've decided to do or how you've decided to go about your business. It's really just to help provide the insight to make it work even more efficiently.
Yes.
It's an addition to what you're already doing. It's not going to take away from everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can see people asking already for your contacts. No,
really?
No. Wait. Hold up.
Pull up.
Yes, hold up. And now recently you released a report on influencer marketing and how influential are influencers. And we've seen that a lot. When you go on our Instagram, the people we follow, you see a lot of brands using these influencers. And I think a lot of marketers and business people wanted to know, are they influential? So we can start with, according to your research, who is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Where's the best place to put your advertising? And who is the audience?
Okay. Let me just preface that with a bit of background. So at Redbrick, we've been doing a number of, we call them panels, but it's basically groups of people who we interview who have been pre-selected, and we've gone through a whole vetting process, and we periodically ask them questions. And so we have this panel that we've been doing, which among other things has been asking about influencer marketing.
Yes.
Now, the background of that is, as a business, our core is to just understand the consumer's mind. What is it that influences or pushes people to make the decisions that they do?
Yes.
Both purchasing decisions and other lifestyle decisions, how people live their lives.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that make people make the choices that they make.
Yes.
That's sort of like at the core of what we do at Redbrick. And so influencer marketing has become sort of like the vogue, the new thing. A lot of, like you rightly say, a lot of marketers, a lot of brands are using these individuals to push their business. And we, we start and ask ourselves, how powerful is this force? Is this going to be the new norm, or is this just a flash in the pan? Is this a flashy thing?
To be very honest, I've seen a lot of even traditional media now struggling because all the money has been, they're not spending. Brands are not spending right now on traditional media.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a lot of money being poured on influencers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think I want to make the distinction between influencers and digital marketing. So on the one hand, we have digital marketing, which is sort of like an umbrella term to define any advertising or marketing work that happens online or through digital space. So that's pretty broad. And I think a lot of the media houses that you're mentioning, which is, spot on. There's a lot of media houses that are struggling now because advertising has been taken over by the digital marketing space. And so, you have all these platforms that are offering solutions that are a lot more efficient, that are a lot more cost effective, that are traceable. One of the problems that traditional media had was
doesn't tell you how many people watch. They'll just tell you millions.
You can't tell, right? You can't tell the demographics of these people. You don't know anything.
You
right?
have no idea.
And the media house just tells you, advertise with us because we have 10 million ears. We have the numbers. You have no way to verify that. So digital media has overturned that, and now people have actual numbers. They can tell you, I put an ad on Google, and through Google Ads, I was able to tell you exactly who saw the ad, how many people clicked on it, how long the video was. Through YouTube, you have metrics that you can track that makes it a lot more trustworthy.
Yeah.
And that's why the tide is turning. And it's not even over yet, by the way. I think traditional media is in big trouble. And I realize the irony of saying that while I'm sitting in a media in a radio station.
At least we're in a digital world.
It's a digital world. You guys are
yes.
absolutely on the right track. But so just to say that digital marketing is a whole field on its own, and part of that is influencer marketing, which is I think what we're trying to talk about today. And I think one of the challenges that we have in this space is that a lot of people confuse the two and assume that influencers are the do-all, be-all for digital marketing.
Yeah.
And that as long as you're working with an influencer, you're reaching everybody you need to reach.
Yeah.
And I think that is where the problem lies.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not saying that influencers are not influential. We're saying that influencers are part of a bigger picture. And if you just rely on influencers alone,
you're not
going to achieve your objectives.
Yeah.
Now we did we released some of the findings from our last panel, and we got to see some of these dynamics at play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll probably talk a bit more about it as we go along.
Yes.
But essentially, we came to realize that what we've always known all along, that influencers are not a magic bullet. You can't just wake up, hire an influencer, and expect everything to go your way. There's a whole bigger mix of factors that go into a marketing mix that will make it work.
Yes.
And this obsession with influencers is damaging brands, because then they're wondering why isn't this working? I mean, we're putting ads on traditional media, it's not working. We're hiring influencers, it's still not working. So what are we doing wrong? It's because you're assuming that an influencer can take the place of everything else in your marketing mix, which is not right.
Oh,
yep.
Love it. You said influencers are not? There's something you said that was really interesting.
Influencers are not a magic bullet.
Yeah.
You can't just plug in an influencer and expect everything to change. There's a lot more that goes into the marketing mix that needs to be factored in.
Yeah.
And influencers are part of that mix, but they're not the only part of it.
All right. Do people buy from influencers? Before the show started, we were discussing it and saying, when was the last time you bought something because you saw it from an influencer?
Yeah.
And
yeah. What did you guys find out? What did you decide?
My photographer said she's never bought something because of an influencer,
like ever.
But she has bought something because of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean?
I do,
So
I do.
when probably she goes somewhere, say, I like this. Where can I get this? And she buys. But what she feels like influencer does is getting to know about the product. So the influencer helps you know about the product, and then the purchasing decision is not entirely on the influence. And I think that's something we will be delving deep into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that analogy is so accurate. What our study found is that people do have a certain level of influencers do have some level of influence over an individual, but more from a brand awareness, a broader awareness perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When we presented these findings at the marketers conference a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that came out of it is that especially people in Gen Z, the younger group, the guys in their early 20s now, who are touted to be the future generation, and they're all on TikTok and they're on Instagram, and I'm going to debunk all those myths now. But there's this whole notion that those guys are completely swayed by influencers.
Yeah,
that at a certain age you will believe an influencer over your own father.
Yeah,
which is not true at all. In fact, what we found was that people are being made aware of products by influencers, but they're using the recommendations of their friends to make decisions. Partly because they have a variety of options, and so their influencers influencing all sorts of stuff. But for you to make a decision, you need more than just that influencer's word. And that's where sort of personal recommendations come in. And we'll talk a bit later about what we're calling the funnel of influence.
Yes.
We developed this sort of methodology or this analogy, which we're calling the funnel of influence. And we're saying at a broad level, you have what we call social media influencers, paid guys who are sorted out, they are obviously working for brands. So those guys are broad. They reach a wide audience. Then you have, at a narrower level, people we call users. And these are people who use the brand. They don't necessarily talk about it, but if they're asked, they'll say, I use this brand. I use Garnier on my face. Or I like shoes from Foreman. Or, whatever it is that I do. So that's a user who is not necessarily overtly speaking about it, but they will say good things if they're asked.
Yes.
And then at a very narrow level, we have what we call super users. And brands call them different things. You can call them ambassadors, or brand ambassadors. These are people who may or may not be paid for it, but based on their own personal experience, will go out of their way to speak up the brand, and they'll tell people, "This is what I use. It worked for me. My life is not the same anymore." And I'll go on Instagram. I'll take pictures. I'll show everybody what I'm doing because I really believe in this brand. I'm not being paid to do it, and I may not even have a big following. I'll be having my 200-300 people. But those 300 people will know because I will talk about it all the time. And those are people we call super users.
Super users. Yeah.
And we say for your marketing mix to be effective, especially from a digital perspective, and especially if you're going to use influence as a motivator for consumer purchase behavior,
yes,
you need to find those super users, because those guys will talk about your brand even when you're not there.
Yeah.
They're not paid to do it. They don't care whether
they just love your brand.
Exactly. They want to talk about it. It changed their lives.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Before we go on a short break, I read some of the report and was saying men are more on social media than women. I was like, how is this?
What do you mean? What is?
How come men are more they use more social media than women?
Yeah.
Tell us how that came to be.
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting finding for us as well. We didn't expect that at all. I think there's this general perception that the internet, and in particular social media, because that's social media. That number is about social media, not just about the internet. That social media is kind of like a time wasting kind of space where you just go there to chill. There's this general perception in society that men are not as idle as women. It's wrong. I don't agree with it completely, but there's that general perception. And so therefore more women are on social media because they've got more time. But clearly that's not the case. Without being very scientific about it, you could assume, or you could premise that number also speaks to how active men are in society. Right, that there are more of them on social media for the same reason that society thinks more women are on social media. Could be the same thing, that men are actually more idle. And I don't know. We don't want to get into it because we don't know. What I'll say is that we're going to look into that in particular in our next panel, in our quarter one panel. We're going to look at that number and look and see what does that mean and why. For now, we just have theories about it. And the team was like, "Wow, okay, this is interesting."
Very interesting. Which platform has more people, and which platform is better for using, especially for advertising?
So again, the numbers are very interesting. The thing about numbers, you can't argue numbers.
You can argue
the numbers are there.
Yeah.
And what the numbers show is that Facebook is by far the largest platform, social media platform in Kenya, by far. There's a lot of hype about TikTok. TikTok probably has less than 1 million Kenyan users.
Wow.
There's a lot of hype about Instagram total maybe 2.5 million. Facebook has 12 million users, active monthly users in Kenya. 12 million. The next is Facebook Messenger. In fact, I have the stats here.
Yes.
Let me just open that slide.
I hope you have a pen and paper and you're writing this. Yeah.
So Facebook is 12 million. Facebook Messenger. Right. You know anybody who's on Facebook Messenger?
I am on Facebook.
You're on Facebook Messenger. I'm on Facebook Messenger. Are you guys on Facebook Messenger? Yeah. 11 million people on Facebook Messenger.
Oh.
Yes. People are saying, Instagram, DMs, Nini. People are on Facebook Messenger.
Oh.
The next is YouTube. YouTube has just over 9 million, 9.3 million
Kenyans.
users. Kenyans. Yeah. So if you're going to advertise, those are 3 platforms right there. Facebook Messenger, and YouTube. Yeah. Coming in at a distant 4th is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is 3 million users in Kenya. Right? And at a distant 5th is Instagram, which has now the 2.5. So it's interesting. The stats are very interesting.
Yeah.
So Facebook has literally 5 times the number of users that Instagram has.
Yes.
Yet there's all this hype about influencers. If you think about what influencers do, a lot of them are on Instagram.
A lot of them are on Instagram.
Primarily an Instagram platform.
Yes.
An Instagram dynamic influencing. But most people are not there. And if you go into the numbers of who is on LinkedIn or who's on Facebook, they have this thing. And I've had this said before, that Facebook Nyawaze.
Yeah.
That it's the old guys.
Are you still... Do you know... Nowadays, I don't even say I'm on Facebook. I'm always
Yeah.
like, I'm on Facebook. Like
You say it
I feel
quietly.
like I'm too old.
You're too old for this stuff, yeah? You're there with your aunt who sends you all these forwards and
But I love Facebook. I do.
Facebook is amazing.
Just that I just find people who find me weird because I love Facebook.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
Mm.
And you know what the numbers say? The majority of Facebook users in Kenya are actually aged between 18 and 34. That's young guys.
Yeah.
That includes Gen Z, the guys who are supposed to be on TikTok, those guys on Facebook. If you look at the numbers for Instagram, Instagram's numbers are actually lower. If the number of people on Instagram in total is less than the number of people on Facebook who are aged between 18 and 34. In other words, there are more people in that age group, which we keep talking about,
Yeah.
on Facebook, a lot more than there are on Instagram and on TikTok. So I mean, numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And people keep saying, get with it,
Yeah.
new trends,
Yes.
let's do this thing. It's okay. It's good to be trendy and to do
where
things.
Where are the numbers?
But where are the numbers?
I didn't hear you talk about Twitter. I didn't hear you talk about Twitter.
Twitter is even smaller. Twitter is 1.3 million people on Twitter.
Wow.
In Kenya. 1.4 roughly.
Yeah.
About 1.4.
Yeah.
And for all the hype, for all the noise, people say KOT, Kenyans on Twitter. KOT is a force. That is absolutely true.
Yes.
But it's, in terms of numbers, it's actually a small group. There are 10 times more people on Facebook than there are on Twitter.
What are the other insights you found out?
Yeah.
Other findings you found out?
Yeah. So one of the things you also came to realize is that contrary to public opinion, this demographic, this younger demographic, the guys who we call millennials or Gen Z, a lot of them are actually on Facebook.
Yes.
And actually more of them on Facebook than there are on other platforms, including Instagram, including TikTok, including Twitter.
Yes.
So,
so tusidanganywe.
Don't think at the, and I was saying KOT is a force, which we have to reckon with. But don't be deceived. There's a lot of people on Facebook. Those were, as you say, your aunt is sending you forwards on Facebook. You don't want to be with her on the same platform. There's a lot of people on Facebook.
Yeah.
I think what we've also come to see is that I think we talked about the top 3 platforms already. I think we talked about that.
So Facebook,
Facebook
Messenger,
and YouTube. Those are the 3 main ones. We're saying that the rules of engagement are a bit different on those platforms. So it's not your typical influencer marketing model, which works on Instagram mostly and on TikTok. Facebook, YouTube, it has a bit of a different thing. YouTube now has this thing called Shorts, which is sort of like Instagram. And it's the same model. Short videos, guys consume them endlessly.
Yes.
So that's a whole new thing. It's being tried out and all. But the mode of engagement is a bit different on YouTube, a bit different on Facebook, and you kind of have to tweak it to that. So if you're a brand and you're thinking about your marketing mix, I would say, influencers are not useless. I mean, there's definitely value in them, but you need to figure out how to use them within a bigger context of your marketing mix and realize that the numbers are actually not where everybody thinks they are.
Yeah. The numbers are not where everybody thinks they are.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of influencers are making so much money. You're seeing people being given 300, 500,000 a post, just one post.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that? Have you experienced companies that have used a lot of money on influencers and have not gotten it back?
I have.
Yes.
I was telling you guys during the break about a particular story. I'm not going to go into details, but essentially they did not get value from the investment.
Yes.
It was a big major influencer and, a lot of money was spent and not much return. I think the definition of return is also very, can I say, fluffy when it comes to influencing sometimes.
Yes.
Where we're asking ourselves, what exactly do we want out of this campaign? When we say we're going to spend 1 million shillings doing an influencer campaign, what do we want out of it? Do we want people to buy a product? Do we want people to click on a link?
What's the end game?
What's the end game?
Yeah.
And how much of that are we going to get out of this? And what's the alternative? Is there another way we can get the same kind of outcome without jumping on this bandwagon of influencers, but using them for and realizing that influencers work for us? They work for us. As a brand,
yes,
the influencer works for me. Yes, they have a big following, but they work for me. And if what they're doing and offering doesn't work for me, then I should be willing to say, these are the metrics. Yeah. These are the things that I want done. Yes. Can you get this done? And if you can't get this done, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's people who are out there making good money. There's people who are living a fruitful life because of their influencing work. And I'm not bashing that. That's okay. But as a brand owner, and I'm speaking to brand owners,
yeah,
What is the value that you're getting out of that engagement? And what is it that you want to see done? Don't just jump on the bandwagon. Don't just say, we're going to hire the biggest influencer. Ask yourself, what do we want out of this engagement? What do we want out of this campaign? And will this influencer deliver it? And if they will, by all means, hire
Use them.
Use them.
Yes.
By all means.
Yes.
But just realize that, you need to be clear. You need to own the brand. You are the owner. You are the one who decides. The influencer works for you, not the other way around.
The influencer works for you.
Yes.
So what kind of other mixes? What I've heard you saying is that you need to mix your marketing mixes apart from just not using influencers.
Yeah.
What else can you put on? Or how do you work with influencers and other things to make your marketing mix work?
Yes. We were saying earlier that digital marketing is a combination of different factors, and that it's taken over traditional media because it's a lot more effective.
Yeah.
So I would say, in addition to using influencers, just ensure your digital marketing mix is okay. Use ads, paid ads. Try and get what we're calling the super users we're talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Try and get them involved as well. Reach out to them, find them, get them to talk about your brand in a more proactive manner. Use offline media as well. So we're saying earlier during the break that radio is still king.
Yeah, radio is.
We talk about all these other media, but radio is king. People listen to radio.
Yeah,
right.
They do.
So
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. We're in a radio station, right? And you guys you're brilliant. You guys have done this. You're doing it online.
Yes.
But you're a radio station.
Yes.
And people listen to radio.
Yeah.
So don't just stick it on one thing. Use a combination of factors. Use your paid ads, do your radio. Sometimes even print media actually works. There are people who will go and read the newspaper. Today, there are guys who will read the paper. They
Still
read,
now. Yeah.
Classifieds at the back. They will look for things. The people who read obituaries. So there's still a place for traditional media.
Yeah.
But as a brand owner, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, don't just stick it on one thing. Have a combination of factors. Try everything that works. And don't believe the hype. Do the study, do the research. Ask yourself, where are my listeners? Where are my followers? Where are the people who want to buy what I'm selling? And can I reach them using this platform? Can I reach them using these influencers?
And I think it all boils down again to research.
Yep. Absolutely. You
need to find out exactly where your clientele is.
You need to know exactly. I mean, there are people who think, marketing to Gen Z, but the question is, who is Gen Z? We hear about brands that market to children, right? And their whole pull is, I want to get these kids so excited about my product that they force their parents to buy it. So I'm going to have my products at the shelf, right at the entrance of the supermarket, at eye level. So these little kids who are 3 feet tall are walking in and they're saying, I want those sweets. So your whole strategy is built on getting that child to throw enough of a tantrum in supermarket that your parent is embarrassed into buying your product. Yet that's wrong.
Yeah.
Parents make conscious decisions. In this economy, may I have kids, by the way, and I'm not going to go at you. I'm twisted and bullied into buying sweets at Kinder Joy because it's there. What? No, boss. Utakula Kinder Joy ama utaenda shule.
Please, you have never gotten that situation where
you those ones of Ati being blackmailed by my toys. Never. Can never be me. Never ever. So I mean, a lot of parents are like that, right? They make conscious decisions. So selling your product to a child is not effective. Having an influencer who talks to children is not effective. You should be talking to the parents. You should be selling the value of that product. If you're selling chocolate or something that's sweet related, fine, it's bad for your teeth, but it's good for a happy feeling, or it helps the family be peaceful because your children are going to be quiet, or whatever it is. Sell to the right people. And that's really what Insight is all about. It's about understanding who exactly are you selling to, who has the power to make the decision that you as a brand owner need them to make in order for them to buy your product, and then speaking to them in the language that they understand. Okay, and that's really where, as brand owners, as marketers, as business owners, we need to be thinking about.
And I think because, of course, on the rise of e-commerce, it's very important to actually also be aware of where your influencer or where your audience is at.
Yes.
Where your audience is at.
You absolutely need to. Yes. Yes. One of the things, if I may, before we go into another session, one of the things that happens is, you see, because the beauty about digital marketing and about the digital space and about being online is that there's data. There's a lot of numbers that can help you understand who you're talking to. And more importantly, to also realize that you might be talking to the wrong people. So you can set out to, push a brand in a certain direction, or you're probably selling to, say, women. You're doing a product that appeals to women, and you realize, it's a financial inclusion product or whatever it is. You're targeting women, and you go on and you realize that, and that's some of the things that our numbers showed, that majority of the people online are actually men, right? The bulk of people. If you look at Facebook, for example, over 50%, 57% of Facebook users are actually men. So you could go online and think, I want to talk to women because most women are online, and you realize you're actually talking to the wrong people. So the beauty about being online and being in the digital space is that you can be able to track that number. Now, that doesn't mean that you stop doing what you do. When you realize that you're actually appealing to a different audience than you set out to appeal to, then you either change your product, you change your approach, or you just decide to start selling to the right people. Sell to those people who are listening to you. All right. And that's the kind of dynamism that it gives you. Offline media wouldn't give you that. Okay, you can't tell how many women watched your billboard. To some degree, you can tell about radio, to some degree.
Yeah.
But for a lot of offline media, you can't tell.
You can't tell.
I would argue it's the same thing with influencers. You can't really tell who they're talking to. You assume that because this guy is a guy and he talks about certain things, that most people who listen to him are guys.
Or most people who listen to him enjoy what he does. Or they use the products that he will normally use.
Yes. Which is not necessarily true.
Yes.
So we're not saying don't use them, and we're not saying that it's a bad thing to have influencers.
Yes.
It's just about getting a little deeper. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's go a little below the surface and not just take numbers as a simple metric for success.
And that's where I was going with this question. I mean, what should brands look at when they're targeting to work with influencers?
Yeah.
Did your study also find out which sectors are good for being pushed by influencers and which sectors are not? What brands are good for being pushed by influencers? What did your study find out in that area?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, products that are quick moving, fast moving, lifestyle type products are really good, for pushing by influencers, because then the influencer has a chance to demonstrate the product in their own setting. And I can give this example because this is out in the open. Aziad is one of probably the biggest influencers in Kenya.
The biggest.
She's probably the biggest female, and she's doing some work with Garnier, the guys who do skincare.
Oh yeah.
And I heard from somebody who said they watched Aziad telling her story about how she struggled with acne and she had issues with her skin for a long time. Yeah. And Garnier basically changed her life.
Yeah.
Now, I can't argue whether that's true or not, whether that's a paid thing, I don't know. But it was a very real story, very true, very raw from the heart, and people really resonated with that. And because of that, this person went ahead to try Garnier's product. Okay, when they did, they started telling other people about it. So this one person became a super user. And from her 3,000-4,000 people, she bombarded them with stuff. She showed them how the mask, I'm putting my mask tonight, and so I'm doing this skin thing and the exfoliation and blah, 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 all this stuff that they do. I know I sound very green about it, because I am. But the point is that Azed was able to influence, or rather to inspire this individual, who then used it to influence others. So I think there are some products where that is possible. Some other products require a bit of a longer time frame, or there's a bit more, the decision making process is a bit more complicated. If I'm going to buy something electronic, like a phone, for example, yes, I can watch Eric Omondi or Natalie, playing around with the Fold, the Galaxy. Is it called the Galaxy Fold, I think, or Galaxy Flip?
Yes, Flip.
And I'll watch her enjoying it, and Kina George and those guys. I'll enjoy what they're doing and the content they're creating, but I'm not gonna wake up today and spend $100K on a phone because of that. At least I won't.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who are in my age group and who think like me wouldn't.
You need to know
There's
why.
a lot more that goes into it.
Yes.
And so yes, I will know that there's a phone called the Galaxy Fold that does A, B, C, D. But before I make a decision, and I have to go through a number of steps. So to answer your question, it depends on the product. Some products which are faster moving, which are more lifestyle oriented, and which influencers can then demonstrate in their daily lives, would be more prone towards an influencer's influence in terms of making a decision. I know Fanta is doing something with a number of influencers when they were introducing this new flavor of theirs. We did that test with my kids, by the way. I even have a video on TikTok. And it was just a joke, but basically we're saying, what is that flavor? And we had all these random thoughts about it. So it was just a silly video. But Fanta was using influencers to sort of push that agenda, and it really worked for them, right? because you see, they're a fast-moving consumer good product.
Yes.
They sell soda, soft drinks will sell
Mm.
regardless. They're just trying to move more people towards buying this new Fanta than the older Fanta.
Mhm.
So in that case, the influencer angle actually works.
Yeah.
I know alcoholic beverages use influencers a lot.
A lot. They
A
have
lot.
literally stopped working with local,
Yeah.
with traditional media.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's just total influencers.
Yes.
And that works for them because it lends itself to that setting. People are in the club, they're drinking. What are you drinking? You want to try something new? That's a channel. You follow this person. You see the kind of lifestyle they live. There's this thing coming out about.
Aspiration.
It's aspirational, exactly.
Yes.
They have this thing of, we go for brunch, a random brunch on a Sunday afternoon or something of a sort, and we have Tanqueray as part of it and all that. I've not been paid to do that. But, all of that is part of a lifestyle that lends itself to certain products. Other products are a little bit harder to sell in that way, and therefore you need to be clear. If you're going to sell, say, kitchen stuff, like microwaves, or they're called white goods, things which are washing machines, fridges, things like those, which are called white goods. If you're going to sell things like those, influencers are not going to be that influential. Fine, you can show somebody showing them how they use their new Samsung fridge or whatever.
Yeah.
But people have the decision making process is much longer, and people take time to review and see. If I'm going to drop 200 G's on a fridge, it better be like all of that, because I'm going to use that fridge for the next 15 years.
Yes.
So it needs to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the things that I think.
So when a decision making gets longer, what does that mean for a marketer?
That means that you have to change your perspective on your campaign.
So it's not necessarily just focusing on someone showcasing the product.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's a combination of factors.
Yes.
You have to talk to experts. That's another thing that happened with our research. What we realized is that influencers are more credible when they have technical knowledge about the product, for most products. So, if it's, say, a technical product like a phone or whatever it is, if I know what the phone does and how it's different from another phone, the specs, how many megapixels, what does it mean when the thing folds or whatever it is, the more technical I can be, in addition to my influencer knowledge, the more credible I am. And so therefore, you need that kind of thing.
Okay.
But if you have a product that moves faster, that is more lifestyle oriented, then people just want to see how you live and how your life is amazing because of this product, and that's all they need. They don't need to know the specs or anything like that.
Yeah.
I was going to say something that you said earlier about whether this influencer thing is big around the world or here, what it's like, what's the difference?
Yes.
Like. What we've seen is that the Kenyan market, in my opinion, has not evolved yet to the point where influencers have the kind of sway that they have abroad.
Oh.
Right?
I think that's the nail on the head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not yet. We'll get there, but we're not there. I don't think we're big enough as a market. I don't think our products. I don't think the audience, the crowd, or the consumers, we the consumers, are that sold out to influencers, and that vested in their lives that we will take whatever they say. It's different from other places. Do you have
a case study from other places, for example, in the US?
There's an example, a very good example. Cristiano Ronaldo, who is actually, incidentally, he's the biggest name on Instagram. He has 500 million followers on Instagram. He's the biggest by far. The second one, I think, is Messi or somebody who is at 300. He's like almost double. Footballers.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but he's big on it. He's huge.
Yes.
And every time he says something on Instagram, anytime he's seen doing anything, it sways the market. There was a time when he was at a press conference, and Coca-Cola, which is one of his sponsors, had put 2 bottles of Coke at the front there. And he basically took the 2 bottles and put them aside and brought water instead. Okay? And Coke's market cap, their value on the stock market dropped by 2% because of that.
No.
Market cap. This is Coke is like a $200-300 billion company. They are huge. And their market cap dropped because of that.
Yes.
It was a 2-second thing. He just put them aside and put water.
Know that, yeah.
And that's the kind of power that influencers can have.
Yes.
I don't know that we're there yet.
I do think they're gonna go there very soon.
I don't know that we have enough of a market to make that make sense. You see, because Cristiano Ronaldo is an international brand, right? Everybody around the world knows him.
Yes.
By virtue of his profile. But I mean, even the big guys in this country, you don't have the kind of profile, the kind of platform that can get you an international audience. So yeah, you'll have a few guys who know you in a couple of countries, but nobody is on at that level yet. And our influencers basically have a largely local audience. So yes, it's 500,000 people, it's 2 million people, but they're mostly Kenyan.
Mhm.
And so you can't master the kind of clout that Ronaldo would, or Kim Kardashian, or Messi would,
Rihanna.
or Rihanna,
Yeah.
or Ariana Grande, one of these big guys,
Mhm.
because they can appeal to a much wider audience, and not just numbers, but spread. They are all over the world.
Yes.
And that's the thing, and some of those big influencers are then used by some of these big international brands, who, for them, Kenya is just it's not even a drop in the ocean. It's just a small, almost insignificant part of their mix.
Yes.
I was hearing about one of these big international companies, and they said that the East at the time, the what they call the MIA, the Middle Eastern Africa, was about less than 5% of their whole business,
Mhm.
right? So the bulk of their business is in Europe, it's in the Americas, it's out there, in Asia. So for them to come here and spend millions on influencers, it's not part of their bigger mix.
Yes. Yes.
So you're
it's
really
not.
appealing to us, a local audience. You're
Mm.
appealing to local brands and saying the brands that have Kenya as their business, we can appeal to those guys and ask them to use influencers for their mix.
All right.
So that's sort of like the picture.
So cool down on the hype. Cool down on the hype.
Yep. And again, I want to say this again.
Yes.
We're not saying I don't think influencers are useless at all. I'm actually personally building a brand on my own,
Yes.
and I'm trying to get into that space.
Yes.
But I think that as a brand owner myself and as a business owner myself, I think it's important to see the bigger picture where influencers are concerned,
Yes.
and to use them within the right context. Otherwise, you can put all your eggs into one basket,
Yes.
and it ends up not working for you.
There's one thing we've been hearing a lot about, and
Yeah.
of course, even the companies are talking about it, is nano influencers.
Correct.
The ones with between 250 to probably 5,000 followers.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, what do you think about them? Did your research have anything or findings about nano influencers?
Yeah, we did. The categorizations are still a bit fluid. So there are
Yes.
people who define it as less than 1,000 is nano.
Mhm.
Anything up to 10,000 is micro.
Oh,
And then
okay.
anything above, I think 100K is macro, something like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, the definitions are fluid, but basically, nano is smaller. You have a smaller following. Yeah. And what happens with these kind of people is typically you're not pushing to influence anything. You're basically just someone who has
Chilling.
people. Yeah, you have people who follow you. A lot of those are content creators, so they're people who are doing something of the sort. They are building some sort of, and they may not even be building an audience. They're just creating content. I like doing silly things when I'm driving, so I put videos of me doing that, and you end up getting sort of like a following. And we find that those nano influencers, as we would call them, are very influential because they have people who follow them for who they are, and they have people who really believe in what they do, and they participate and they engage. And they find that the engagement, in terms of like as a percentage of their following, is a lot higher than it would be for a bigger
Brand.
or a bigger influencer.
Yes.
Because of just that very personal nature of their content. For you to get up to 1,000 followers, you have to be creating something. You're doing something. You may not think of yourself as a content creator, but you are doing something that people are watching or listening to.
Mhm.
And so for that reason, those people we call nano influencers are typically quite influential. If numbers for numbers, if you look at the comparison and the engagement that they have, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
No, that's what we find.
All right. So nano influencers are very people need to use them, but it's so hard to find them. I
Yeah.
mean, you wouldn't come to me and tell me I know you have these followers, and the metrics of even paying them is also
Yes,
very
it's
interesting.
tricky. It's tricky. I mean, the mechanics and the administration of them is harder. That's true. I know there are platforms that do that. So we have platforms like Wowzy, we have platforms like iFluence that do influencer marketing, and they basically sort of aggregate these nano influencers for you.
Mhm.
The market is not perfect yet. I think there's a lot of gaps. I'm a member of Wowzy. I'm actually one of their nano influencers,
Mhm.
and I can tell you the market is not. It's complex. It's still a moving target. There's a lot of things that need to be in place for that thing to work more effectively.
Yeah.
But I think it's your best bet if you want to get like a whole bunch of people who say drink a particular product or use a particular kind of product. It's easier to work through an aggregator, at least in the short run. But I think that's partly why people prefer to use influencers who are known, because it's just easier. Yes, it's costly for me to talk to Njugush, but it's easier. As in, I can just talk to him. I can find there's an email. I can email him, and it now comes a question of numbers. How much money are you putting on the table?
Yes.
That's easier than me trying to find
The
200
Canadians of this
small
world.
whatever's who are selling, so that becomes sort of like the issue. It's administration.
Yeah.
How easy to administer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What else did you find out that we haven't discussed on the
On the
show?
study.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of looked, sort of broadly at what are some of the factors that a company can or should consider when using social media influencers.
Mhm.
Okay, and one of the things that we realized is that people tend to trust, or what are some of the things that the factors that people use or think about when they are doing stuff online. One of the things we realized is that people mostly like to use recommendations from
Mhm.
friends.
Yes.
So if
Recommendations from
recommendations from
friends.
friends, that is a way more powerful tool
Mhm.
than anything that any influencer can tell you. Because if my friend Kangeda tells me, go to such and such restaurant because they have excellent food, I will go there.
Yes.
If I go there and get food poisoning, I'll probably say they had a bad day
Yeah.
or something was wrong. But I'll keep going there. I will not trust them. But if Kangeda tells me, don't go to that restaurant, it doesn't matter how much vibe or how much hype they have
Yeah.
or how many influencers they use, I will never go there. Because my friend has told me that's not a good place to go.
Yes.
So the personal recommendations are super powerful. And we
That's why
recommend.
reviews are really big right now.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And especially reviews from people who you know. Because we also realize that people don't trust generic online reviews because they feel like the outlet
we
can
could pay.
doctor it. Exactly.
Pay, yeah.
I can doctor it. I can have my guys, my interns, go online onto our site on Google reviews and just type things. This is the most excellent place, 5 stars, 5 stars. So it can be
Yes.
doctored. You can play
Yeah.
you can game the system,
Yeah.
but you cannot game a personal connection. And so getting those personal connections, those personal recommendations, is a personal recommendation from a client is worth its weight in gold. You have to find those guys, and you have to find the people who will talk about your product, the so-called super users.
Yes.
So there's that. We also learned that for brands that have a purely online presence, they don't perform as well as those that have both on and offline. What I mean is this: if you're buying shoes or whatever it is, people need to know that you're not just an online brand, that they can find you somewhere else. They can find you at a shop or someplace. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have a physical location for you to succeed in selling, but some sort of offline presence has a lot more powerful effect than just being online and just being on social media.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of fraud that happens on social media. A lot of people are being conned.
A lot.
Right? But if I know there's someone who has seen your shoes somewhere, or there's someone somewhere who has been to your restaurant, or I can find you somewhere, then that gives me confidence that I can trust you. Now, and again, disclaimer: it doesn't mean that you have to have a physical presence to
do
online.
business. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. But depending on what you're selling, there's definitely value in having some sort of offline presence. That people know where they can find you. People know who you are. Somebody somewhere has seen you in person. That helps. The other thing that we also realized is that I'm just looking back at my slides here.
Yes.
So I don't lie. We talked about personal connections. We talked about knowledge, being knowledgeable about the product. That people tend to trust people who know what they're talking about. So you're selling a product, let's say like this mixer,
Yes.
right? You're selling a mixer. If Kangada is the one selling it, you've used this thing, so you can talk about it with your eyes closed because you know this is how you change, this is how you do. So you have a technical knowledge that someone like me does not have. So if I'm trying to sell this thing, fine, I might have a bigger following than you in theory, but the people will trust you because you know what you're talking about.
Yes.
You have a technical knowledge.
Yes.
So that technical knowledge is very valuable to users. People like to say, oh, marketing is about emotion. It's about not the inherent value of the product, but what the product does for you or how the product makes you feel.
Makes you feel, yes.
And there's that, yes. But when you're dealing with people online, because of the lack of trust and the lack of accountability, people tend to trust people who know what they're talking about. And this is technical. It's about this shoe is made out of this. It has this undersole. It has this. So technical knowledge matters. Yeah. And then I think there's a general mistrust of brands that self-promote on social media.
Oh, I think we need to add that volume. We need to add that volume.
There's a general mistrust, let me repeat, of brands that self-promote on social media. What I mean is this: you're an insurance company, you're selling, life insurance or car insurance or whatever it is, and it's me talking to you. It's me, whatever insurance company, talking to you. People will be like, okay, why? What's going on? What's the catch? If somebody else tells me, by the way, you should buy those guys' products, I'll be like, oh, okay. Oh, those guys are cool.
That's why marketing is
Yes.
here. That's why
Yes.
we are here.
That's what you're there for.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for real because what I find even when we are advising companies to do some things like, for example, be hard on radio, do PR. They always wonder why can't we use this money to advertise by ourselves? And you see, you are the one who is telling me who you are. I don't know you.
Yeah.
So you need someone, of course, who is probably trusted more to talk about your product. And
Yeah.
that's why TV radio is very important. And that leads me to the next question of saying that even with the current influencers that you're using, is there like a way where some companies are there influencers that have more trust than other influencers? Are
Yeah.
there influencers where people follow more? And I loved what you talked about Cristiano Ronaldo and what he did. Does that mean that there are some influencers who definitely can't sell some products and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about what social media is at its very essence, it's about people following other people and to see how they live their lives. That's essentially what social media is. And so there are some products which you can trust that the influencer that you're following knows what they're talking about. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Eric Omondi is the biggest guy on Instagram in Kenya today. He's also very big on YouTube, and he has, I don't know how many subscribers, probably a million. He's probably hit a million by now, which is a very big deal. And typically his videos hit 2-3 million views. Typically, he did a campaign with these guys who I think they do financing for women-led enterprises, something like that. They're called Africa One.
Yes.
Or One Africa, I don't know, I can't
Yes.
remember. That video has 1,400 views. I'm sure it has messed up his algorithm because, I mean, you're coming from millions to 1,400, right? And why? Because it's so out of character for him. Eric Omondi is a comedian. Guys watch him because he's funny. So when he sits there and he's serious talking about women enterprises, I mean, it's just
why?
so out of character for
just
him.
Why?
And I could also argue that it's also the way he did it. In terms of the video was very sit in front of a camera and talk about it, as opposed to making it a funny skit or something.
Yeah.
So maybe they could have done it differently. But the point is that people don't see Eric Omondi as somebody who talks about women enterprises, and so therefore his product or that particular campaign did not work. So to answer your question, it's not a one size fits all, and it's not just one thing. It's a combination of factors. You have to think about who the influencer is, what their brand, what they talk about, what do people see them for, why do people follow them, and you have to understand that. You have to understand what the brand you're selling is. Why do people buy it? What are you trying to sell? Is it a lifestyle brand? Is it a fast-moving consumer good? What kind of brand is it? And you need to be able to combine those two in a way that appeals to the audience, so that the audience knows that what they're watching, they're not being sold on stuff. Remember, people are very mistrusting online. They don't trust brands that sell themselves. To some degree, they don't really trust influencers. So they watch them, but
I
so
also
sure.
really don't trust influencers. Yeah. I'm just being very honest.
Yes. And when influencers overdo it and you see them selling things all the time,
that's it.
Yeah.
And I think influencers need to know that.
Yes.
Because if every product in every video you're doing, you're selling something, I will just switch off.
Yeah.
When I just look at a video and I hear you talking about something, I'll be like, okay, fine.
He's selling something.
It's been real.
Yeah. And you see, influencers will say, we're making money. We're chasing the bag. So let's do what we can. And it's true. Fine. You'll make money. And you will make money for the foreseeable future. But you're going to stop losing. You're going to start losing relevance as a brand, as an influencer. And a year from now, people are going to be like, who was that guy? We can't remember who that guy was. So if you want to last long as a brand online, you have to be aware of why people follow you. Why is it that people are with you in the first place, and be able to appeal to them? So again, to answer your question, I think it's a combination of factors. I don't think there's any brand that cannot sell online. I think it's just a question of understanding who you're talking to and making sure that your influencer combination or mix ties in with your brand and doesn't kill your brand in the process. That you don't lose the credibility because guys just don't trust your influencer. And you don't pick the wrong influencers just because they have a high following. But you make sure the mix is accurate and works for your brand.
This is an art.
Yeah, it is an art. It is an art.
Yeah.
It is definitely something. And again, back to research, it's something that you have to study.
Yeah.
Something you have to take time. You have to build in the metrics. You have to look at the numbers. You have to follow these things through on a regular basis.
Yes.
Otherwise, just throwing money at the problem, that's what these people used to do long ago. Nowadays, money has to make sense. It has to make sense. I think we have a lot of scope to grow as an economy.
Yeah.
In order to support like a vibrant influencer marketing ecosystem.
Yes.
I think there's definitely going to be a lot of use for influencers in the future. I think they need to be taken within the right context, that it's a combination of factors.
Yes.
And that influence is going to become a very big or a very important part of the marketing mix. I think in the short run, there's going to be sort of like a correction of sorts in the next couple of years.
Yes.
People are going to sit and think, hey, okay, I've put all this money into this campaign.
Yes.
I have not seen any returns. Or I've not seen the kind of returns I anticipated. And people are going to wonder where is the hype. So there's going to be a correction. And a lot of people are going to struggle, influencers. There's going to be some sort of correction at some point. And then it will become a bit more mainstream as people realize the power of influence.
Yes.
I think markets or brands are going to redefine that understanding of influence to not just include the social media influencers who are paid big scale sort of brands.
Yes.
But anyone who has a platform. Because see, these days in social media, everybody has a platform, right? Anybody, even the guy who sells stuff outside the shop, outside my house, that guy has a social media page.
Yes.
And he is an influencer in his own right.
Yes.
So the whole notion
everybody is an influencer.
Everybody's an influencer. And so brands are going to realize or realign themselves to influence. And I think tools and stuff is going to come up. Organizations are going to come up to try and aggregate some of these influencers in a way that makes sense, right? Some people, like I mentioned earlier, have already started doing that, but I think that's going to grow, and that's going to be the new frontier. Like, how can we mobilize as many people to talk about our brand in an organic, in a generic way that allows our brand to grow and reach the right kind of audience? Those days of just splashing money on one big influencer, those days are going to go. And that's the correction that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Brands are going to wake up and say, why am I spending so much money on one person?
We'll be hit. Just, I hope you have security at home.
I know. And I've talked to some of my influencer friends, and maybe I'm also in that boat. Because even me, I'm trying to build a brand online.
Yes.
So I'm also in a way an influencer. But I think honestly, I've talked to business owners. Some of the people on our panel are entrepreneurs, people who are running businesses, and they tell me categorically, I'm never going to spend that kind of money on an influencer because I just don't see the value. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because there's definitely value in influencing, but it's a question of structuring it in a way that it makes sense, that there's accountability for the outcomes that you're paying for as a brand, as an organization, and that you get to see where this is all going. It's not just hype that's being flashed at you. It's not Ponzi scheme type stuff where you're just being told, you give me money, make sure I'm going to reach people. You're actually showing value for what you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
And you're getting paid for the value that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed.
Yeah.
All right. When we come here every single time that we get a guest, we ask them a few questions about themselves.
Oh no.
Is it something hard?
Oh no.
I mean, the first question. The best business quote or advice you ever got?
Oh wow. I think it would probably be that no one's coming to save you. Your business is your business, and you have to do everything that you can to make it work.
I'm done.
That's it.
The
end of the story. Thank you, viewers. I mean, there's some businesses where business generally goes through ebbs and flows. There are good times, there are bad times. But I think this is something that I'm learning recently, that it's up to you to make it work. It's going to be tough. It's going to take everything out of you. People have this idea that business is easy. They see people rolling around in Land Cruisers and think, I just need to get into business, and within a couple of months, I'm rolling, even me. And you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. Some of those guys have been doing this for 20 years, and now is when you're seeing the big bucks. Some of those guys are wash guys. They did a tender, and that's it. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, but you are the ultimately only one responsible for your business, and you have to. It's up to you to make it work.
Wow.
If you can't do it, nobody don't expect your people to do stuff that you're not willing to do. Don't send your guys out there to go and sell and do crazy, hard, tough stuff which you're not willing to do, because then, you don't really have credibility as a business owner.
Mm.
That's what I'd say. That's
Awesome,
Top of
awesome.
top of mind.
Your the book that you really loved reading, your greatest book.
Wow, hey, that's interesting. So I like history a lot. I'm a huge history fan. One of the most fascinating books I've ever read is a book called The State of Africa by a guy called Martin Meredith, and it talks about post-colonial Africa. So from the time that African states started to gain independence, starting with, I think it was Ghana in 1957, and all through the late 50s, early 60s, most of the African countries gained independence. And there was a whole the British Prime Minister at the time was called, what was his name? I forget his name, but he said there was a wind of change sweeping over the continent, and that basically means that it was no longer business as usual. And so all these colonies, which were previously money minters for these colonizers, suddenly started becoming independent. And so now Martin Meredith traces the history of these countries from post-colonial times
Oh wow.
into the colonial period, and out of colonization all the way through to, let's say, the early 2000s. So
Yeah.
that's like a 50-year period, about 50, 40 something years. And it's amazing. I mean, so much potential has been wasted in this continent. It's called the dark continent for a reason, because I mean, there's just so many things that are wrong about
We have
how
never
Africa
seen the
has done.
light. I just don't get it.
It's crazy. I mean, if you think about leadership and how leadership has really messed up this continent of ours,
Yes.
the kind of decisions that have been made, the kind of selfishness, the kind of greed, where someone just checks into power. There's a story of a country, I think it's Equatorial Guinea, where the guy, first of all, he took power by force. It was a coup. Okay, ran the economy into the ground, and then eventually when he was leaving power, he went to the reserves, the central bank reserves. He went into central bank and took money from central bank. All the money he left, like I don't know how many thousands dollars for the economy. I'm like, madness. It's total madness, right? And so if you think about it, there's so much that's gone wrong in our continent because of leadership, because of greed, and that book really talks about it. It's a fascinating book.
I won that book.
The State of Africa.
I win that. The
Yeah.
State of Africa.
State of
Definitely
Africa.
getting
Yeah.
one. Your role model. Who do you look up to? I think this is the last one.
Wow.
I think our time is over already.
I want to be cliche and say Nelson Mandela, but no. I think to be frank, I think my dad is probably my biggest role model. My dad is he's a great guy. He's always been very involved in me and my siblings' lives. Even until today, he's those granddads who will come for his grandkids' school plays and stuff like that. He's that hands-on, and he's always been a hands-on guy. He's really inspired a lot of my decisions as a dad. The platform that I started on fatherhood, so it's inspired by him. So I think he's been very influential in my life, even till today. We speak quite a lot, and just hearing from him what his journey was. We have conversations now that we've never had before about what his life was like, raising us, and some of the challenges, some of the struggles that he went through. He's a typical traditional Meru man, so there's some conversations we can never have with him. But he's surprisingly open to hearing or to answering some of these questions. And growing up, I thought he could never talk to him about some things.
Yeah.
But now it's just a question. Dad, what do you think about this? Or
Yes.
what was this like for you? And he'd just tell you, yeah, this was tough, or this was easy, or this is what I struggled with. I'm like, where was this guy when I was 12 years old, scared to death of him, struggling with so many things? But I mean, he's really been inspirational to me, and I've learned a lot from him.
Oh, that's
and I think
lovely.
He's someone who I hope I'm emulating.
I hope he's gonna listen to this.
I'm gonna send it to him. And I'm gonna ask for my check.
Awesome. All right, your contacts. If someone wants to get to know where you are and how they can find you, your email address, your number.
Okay. So you can check out our website. So we are online, redbrickafrica.com. That's where all of our research work is.
And I've seen you have quite a lot of research.
Yes. And Redbrick is also on social media. So we are on Twitter. We're on no, we're not on Instagram. We are on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. So you can check out what we've done, some of the work we've done. If you want some research work done, we can do an assessment for you. We can have like a free consult to let you know what you need to be thinking about. We can do that for you. So just reach out to us, info@redbrickafrica.com.
Info at redbrickafrica.com.
Correct. Someone will
Yeah.
reach out to you. There's me personally. You can reach out to me, Mutiga at redbrickafrica.com.
Mutiga at redbrickafrica.com.
Yes, or mutiga@gmail.com.
mutiga@gmail.com.
And I also talk about things to do with fatherhood. I have a platform on
Yes.
fatherhood online. It's called
It's
Papa
called,
Bear.
it's
So
called
Papa Bear Kenya.
Papa
Papa
Bear.
Bear.
Papa Bear.
Papa Bear Kenya. So check it
Papa
out.
Bear,
We talk about
yes.
fatherhood. If we had a different forum, we'd have talked about that.
Yes.
But you can also reach out to me. I'm on social media, Mutiga on all platforms. So that's on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, at Mutiga. So
All right.
that's how
Thank you
can
so
reach me.
much.